All right, continuing on. You're going to need 6 bolts total for the exhaust. Really should be putting some thread locker on these guys. These are always a little bit tricky just to get everything lined up. See what the manual says for torque. All right, 11 and 8.5. So these are 11 Newton meters. These two are 11 Newton meters, and these two will get torqued to 8.5. Okay, those are each torqued to 11. These two bottom bolts are also 11. Before I get those attached, need to grab our other gasket here. Make sure we have it fitted. Okay. I'm gonna just expedite this a little bit. Now we'll actually check it with the torque wrench. Make sure we got them to spec. So I still have the torque set to 11. It's set for these bottom bolts. Back this off to 8.5. There's 9. 8.5. So as you can tell, I don't plan on pressure testing this. I'm just going to assume initially that all is well, since we got new parts. Okay, muffler is on. Decomp, intake, and impulse line. I will get something on this shortly to protect it, but the saw is no longer dirty, so I'm not so much worried about dirt getting in there, but I will get that taken care of just for good measure. Just not immediately here. Get some other things buttoned up. Okay, what do you say? Get the clutch in place here. So, what we're gonna do here is find a piston stop. And wouldn't you know it, it's always down at the bottom of the pile. Hate that. Hopefully we won't get any of that. Too much of that anti-seize. Okay, now there we go. Got the piston stop in place. Let's get our parts for the clutch. Rim sprocket. Here's our plate that protects the oiler. Needle bearing, clutch and clutch assembly. Washer and E-clip. On top of that, we need our worm gear, which is right there, and some grease. Just never hurts to have lubrication on parts like this, so I like to put a little white lithium grease right here. Slip that worm gear over it. Go counterclockwise to get it fully seated. I may have mentioned this in another video, so this will slide right up to the very end of that bushing. We're going to need more of this grease for the needle bearing, so I might as well get that done right now. And you want to really work this into the bearing well. This is such a small diameter, I'm going to have to use some help here from a screwdriver to try and get some of that worked in there. Okay, so at this point, our next step is to install this washer. Now it's got a detent or an indentation. The indentation is going to be towards the crankcase. That's going to fit over the worm gear and allow it to run past the washer once everything's engaged. This old one that I've got says top right here, so it indicates that that is to the outside. All right, so I'm just gonna slip that over. And then at this point, it's time for the clutch. Remember, it's reverse threaded. Now I can still get the brake band on. Now what we're looking for is about 45 to 50 Newton meters for torque. And I'm guessing we're looking at least a 19 millimeter or hex head there. Yep, that's what we're looking for. So we'll get that on our torque wrench. Reset this up to 50. Probably doesn't have to be that high. I'll put it up there, but actually I'm going to go with 45. 50 is just really high. Most other saws I've used have those in kind of the 35 range, 40 tops. Make sure I got this. Really easy to forget, although it isn't crucial at this stage when you're putting it on. But when you're taking it off, if you forget, you can really seize up things because you forget you're tightening it when you should be loosening it. All right. We're already up to 25 here. Okay, we were at 48 right there. I'm going to need that out for the spark plug at some point, so I'm just going to... Now, what you do here is, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and just leave it the way it's at right now. I'm sliding the needle bearing in with the clutch drum assembly. Reason why I'm doing this is I still have a lot to do around here, and I'll end up having to take the clutch drum off, and it's always a pain dealing with this washer and E-clip, so I just rather have to do that once when I'm assembling it. So we'll come back to that portion of the rebuild at a later stage. And I think it's time to move on to the flywheel now. All right. Now the flywheel is not tensioned nearly as much. Let's take a look. It's 33. That's more like it. Okay. So unlike some saws that have a fuel injection liner, this one does not. I'm going to clean up a little bit of grease here. So our first step of dealing with the ignition side is going to be putting on the flywheel itself. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to move it so that I can see the woodruff key, and then I'll go ahead and line up the key on the flywheel. And get the nut started. This is probably only going to be like a 13 millimeter. Indeed. Turn our digital torque wrench on. Drop that from 45. To 33. All right. There we go. Piston stop engaged. Crank away. Okay, 34 is what I had it at. All right, so that's probably a good place to end the day. We did a lot. Slapped on the cylinder, piston, clutch, chain tensioner, exhaust. And we've got the cylinder assembly sealed up. I'm not going to tighten that plug all the way down just yet, just in case I need to get after it again. So I hope you found something here interesting, and if possible, you might be able to use this information if you should happen to come across an 044 that needs some tender loving care. Bowman out.